One of the most striking things about Virginia Woolf, I think, is her creative work is very sensory. It's about sound and texture and feeling and color and tempo. There's something very inspiring about that, actually. The music, to begin with Miss Dalloway, grows out of nothing. You have this very simple little fragment which grows over time. And it just turns into a continual line of quavers, very asymmetrical, and then other musics at different speeds surround it. It's almost like pulling a focus. There is also a kind of a theme, which is a very simple sort of long note theme, which actually comes over the top of this sort of rippling line of quavers. It's very, very simple, sort of minimal little line, which happens there, but also happens in different forms, in different movements of the first act. It's sort of encountering something that you don't know where you've heard it. That's the idea of it. And I think that's really one of the sort of magic aspects of the novel for me, this idea of meeting things across time. The second act of the ballet, I use a ground bass. Now, a ground bass is a repeating bass line. In today's language, we'd call it a loop. But in fact, it's a structural principle which goes back to, sort of 16th century, at least, earlier probably. La Folia is a very well-known example of that. It's this, everyone recognizes. Yeah, so we all know that tune, don't we? So that's La Folia. And it struck me that the structure of Orlando, with this extraordinary journey spanning hundreds of years, changing gender, doing all sorts of traveling, themes of transformation, it really lent itself to a variation form. In the simplest Orlando variation, it's almost like sort of putting grit in the oyster to make the pearl, So in that variation, this very simple becomes so it's sort of right, but it's also sort of wrong. For most of us, that sort of, it makes you go, oh, because we know how it should go, but there's something a bit wrong with that. So it sort of invites participation. It's recognizable, but subtly altered. And that's really what's going on in Orlando a lot of the time. The music for Tuesday is all structured around the principle of a wave. We start with this almost like a empty space. It's just moving very, very slowly. So that is an up-down movement, That's what it does. It goes up and down. It's like a wave. And then it's joined by a faster moving line, which also goes up and down. And then more and more density of waves moving up and down at different speeds. If we look in the score, we can see these things. Even visually, you can see it quite clearly. There's that sort of wave movement. If we imagine the stave there, you've got this very high line, sort of doing this quite slowly, like that. And then the next line is sort of like this. And then more density and more speed is built up while the music sort of develops. So you get all these interference patterns. And all of this is underpinned with this big ground bass, which is a sort of, it's almost like a sort of cosmic background radiation which sort of holds the harmonic field of this really large, long, extended piece together in a way which hopefully feels inevitable. That's really what I'm looking for.